Today's episode of the Mind Sculptors podcast is sponsored by TCG Player, your source for all your trading card game needs. Use our link in the description the next time you get your cards to help support the show. Today's episode is also made possible by our Patreon subscribers. If you want to support the show directly, head over to patreon.com/the Mind Sculptors and you can become part of the SCULPTY family today. Or if you don't want to do any of that, leave a like and comment on YouTube or a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as an offering to Algorithm Jesus.
Cal, you know, I said last time, the last episode, which was part one of our Modern Horizons set review, that we are not fudging around. We're going into it. We're taking the breaks. We're cutting the brake lines, and we're going in like the movie Speed, starring Keanu Reeves. This is the speed of cEDH podcast.
This is the speed of cEDH. Whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
I haven't seen the movie Speed, so I can't confirm it. But
statistically, I believe that means that the sequel will be much worse and not include any of the main actors. So whenever there's the Mind Sculptors 2, fuck those guys.
Yeah. You know, what that tells me is I should never sell the brand, because then there won't be any studio to come in and, you know.
Come in and really narc the whole thing up. Yeah, for sure.
Really narc the whole thing up.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Welcome to Mind Sculptors. I'm Cal.
I'm Ian.
And we're your favorite Christian Scooter podcast talking about magic cards. And, you know, I forgot to mention this last week when we talked about the Lime Scooter thing.
Yeah.
Is the Lime Scooters were also like just left laying in the street as well. You know, besides the army of standing up ones outside of the gates to Louisville Slugger baseball field.
I think there's a rise in scooter delinquency we can all really attest to. You know?
Yeah, it really was. You know, I just got to say that if you or your loved one work for Lime Scooter
Inc.,
fuck you.
If you work for Big Lime Scooter.
If you work for Big Lime Scooter.
I heard some of them don't even have wheels, but they get to pass it through Big Lime Scooter.
They're holding up all the good legislation that would clean up our streets.
Look, Cal, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. All I'm saying is JFK said no Lime Scooters, and look what happened to him. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
You can't stand up to Lime Scooters, man. They'll come for you. Scooters. Yeah, that's what I know. Is you don't
so fucking bold and brave.
This is what I know to be true. You don't fuck with the CIA, Boeing, or Lime Scooters. That's a really quick way to end up dead.
And we're only taking on one of those.
Yeah, we're only taking on one.
Yeah, because honestly, that's, you know, we already watch our back enough from Big Lime Scooter. They've already sent an assassin canonically after
it's
you.
True. They have already tried. They can't get through the big beautiful Buick.
That's true. The Buick's, which is honestly, we all know the defending vehicle of all anti-assassination attempts. If JFK was riding in a Buick, he would be fine.
Would have been fine. Listen, if it had been a Buick Skylark, everything would have been fine.
Yeah, right. They'd be like, I don't care how many people specifically took a shot. If there were 3 bullets in a beautiful Buick, would be fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, would have just bounced off the hull because it's made with metal.
And JFK would have sat on the inside, patted the vehicle lovingly, and gone, "That's my girl."
You would have been so comfortable doing it.
He would have been so comfortable. Which is the craziest part of the whole thing.
I love this reference to a bit. That isn't the bit isn't even from this show either. It's from a whole other show that we co-opted.
Well, I think you've talked enough about Buicks that I think...
I would argue that I've talked more about Buicks than Justin McElroy has at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I'm willing to, challenge Justin as the true...
Yeah. That's true.
Buick lover.
We need to challenge more other podcasts that have nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah, not even Magic podcasts, just random podcasts.
Yeah.
This is a challenge to working it out with Mike Birbiglia. Stop working it out, man. Just go with it.
What if you just didn't?
Just go with it. Stop trying to figure it out. Just go with it.
We have so many cards to talk about.
All right, let's talk about these cards here. So we talked about the creatures last week. This week we're going to be talking about the non-creatures. And right off the gate, let's go ahead and talk about this Flare cycle. Let's start off here with the white one, Flare of Fortitude. Flare of Fortitude costs 2 generic and 2 white, is an instant, and it says you may sacrifice a non-token white creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. And it says, until end of turn, your life total can't change, and permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible. So it's like a free Angel's Grace, almost.
Ish, yeah.
Ish. And I'm just going to read through all the flares, and then we'll give our thoughts on all of them here once we get through them. The next one is the blue one, Flare of Denial. This one, it costs a generic and 2 blue, is an instant as well. You may sacrifice a non-token blue creature rather than paying the spell's mana cost. Counter target spell. It's not even restricted on what it can counter, just a spell.
Yep.
Which is, I've heard, not bad. Next card is the black one. It's Flare of Malice. Instead of a white or blue creature you can sacrifice a black creature. And each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the greatest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control. The next one's the red one, Flare of Duplication. This one's nutty. You can sacrifice a red creature and copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. And then the last one is the green one, the slowest of the bunch for sure, is Flare of Cultivation. Again, the whole you can sacrifice a non-token creature, green creature, rather than pay the spell's mana cost, and search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards, put one on the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand.
I thought they're like, all right, you get counter spell, you get fork, you get a powerful edict, you can protect all your creatures for free. And cultivate.
Kodama's Reach.
What? Why?
The green one's so bad. I saw people that were like bagging on the black one, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? The green one's the worst, and it's not even close.
The green one's at least like nothing. I mean, so like let's go in order. I think I want to go in reverse order here to how I perceive them power level wise. So number one, I see being the worst is Flare of Cultivation. It's a cultivate or a Kodama's Reach. And like sometimes if you're playing some weird like veteran explorer style effect, I guess you could play it. I realistically think this will see play in like 2 cEDH decks forever. Like ever. I mean, right? Like, I think
I'm not talking about commanders. We're talking about just decks. Like 2 people ever, maybe just one person will put it in 2 decks. That's its cap.
Yeah. I like the Flare of, I think like the black and white one are like arguably comparable, right? Like Malice is good because black creatures are so easy to sacrifice, right? Like that's one of the reasons I think that card's more digestible. And
the edict effect is just very good.
Yeah, edict effect is strong, right? So like if you're playing some sort of like mid-rangey Corvold-ish thing, I could see it play there, right? Like a slower Corvold list, right?
Sure.
Or I've seen people playing Kambal lately, like, or some sort of like Ikra black deck, right? Or not Ikra, Dargo black deck, right? Where you have a bunch of dorks you want to throw away anyways, right? So it's, if you basically have any graveyard synergies whatsoever, that's fine, right? Like this is totally okay. One of the biggest ups of the white one, which I've literally not heard a single person talk about, is that it is a free Rector sacrifice outlet.
Thank you.
Like that is something that literally nobody is talking about whatsoever, right? And which is so wild to me. The idea that you can like how does it work with Necro? Right? I actually don't know how it works.
I don't know either.
You your whole deck?
I don't think so. Because I don't. So, okay. Yeah. I don't know. We'll get a judge on this.
Yeah. We'll get a judge on that. We'll come back to that, right?
My intuition is that you can't because your life total can't change, so you can't pay life into it. That's what my intuition says. But I also know that WotC designers don't always think that far ahead. So...
so let's talk more about this one. So obviously it has that like very high synergy there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an Angel's Grace for your Adnaz if you sack your Tymna, which is kind of cool. It's very good in your Winota style decks, right?
It does just draw your deck with ad nauseum because your life total can't change.
Yeah, right. So you attack with Tymna, you sack it second post main phase, and then like just cast your Adnaz, right? And just clown on people.
I would like to put my deck in my hand, please.
Which is really good, obviously. So there's definitely like reasons to keep it, right? It's also like just another specifically like, okay, yeah, I've gone deep with my One Ring or my Angel's Grace or like or my whatever card, and or I'm being cracked back after I naused, whatever. There are very real applications for this card in white decks, especially ones that care about ad nauseum, like Dargo plus Tymna is like another really good place for it. And then obviously the Winota style decks, right? Like, yeah, sometimes it sucks to like throw away a piece like your Mother of Runes or whatever, right? But like it's a free counter spell, like, right? Like that's
and it makes stuff. The other part about it too is I think this is worth remembering, everybody, is that your permanents gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So it's like it is very good on that axis as well. So it's not just your life total. If it was just your life total can't change, it would be poo PP. But
yeah, I think the fact that it does such a diverse array of stuff, I think is like kind of the interesting part about it.
Yeah, it does a lot for nothing.
Yeah, for sure. I also, so then it goes blue, right? Which is kind of crazy. We're saying the free counter spell, I think, is slightly worse than the red one, right? But it is. Because turns out blue is not the creature colors, right? Yep. So like it is hard to have blue creatures willing to throw away. I've heard people be like, oh, well, you can throw away your Crom. And it's like, are you going to throw away a fucking 5-mana Crom for a counter spell? You sure about that? I don't think so, realistically. I've heard people talk about it in Malcolm decks. The only Malcolm deck I think it is extremely good in is Malcolm Tymna.
Yep.
Because you don't really care about Malcolm as much. And also you're playing a bunch of fucking little dorks. Like,
I was about to say that. You're playing like the little like Spectral Sailor and shit like that. Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah,
like,
they're easy to throw those away. Not to mention the synergy with the Thoracle combo is obviously insanely strong, right? Thoracle trigger on the stack, you cast your Consultation. You're planning on exiling your entire library anyways. Your opponent goes to respond to it. You sacrifice your Thassa's Oracle to cast this for free. It's like obviously very strong there, right? Yep. The downside is it comes off more like a pact of negation in certain decks because you can't really afford to just throw away blue creatures willy-nilly, right? So that's why we're talking about Malcolm Tymna specifically, because you have a lot of blue creatures to throw away in that deck compared to a lot of decks in the format which do not have that luxury, right?
Like this is very much not a Tivit card. I don't think this is even a control card, if I'm being honest. I think this is very bad in control decks.
But obviously the busted one is the Flare Duplication.
That card is insane.
Turns out red decks have a lot of throwaway creatures, right? That is the Dargo color.
Can you name one specifically for me?
I think there's two obviously like stupid cards with this card, right? It's between Dockside and Rograk, right? Like both of those, it like absolutely asinine the fact that they printed this in these colors, right? We have a dog breaking.
I was about to say, I was like, you have a visitor.
Ouija. But yeah, this is just a stupid card. I legitimately think it's one of the craziest cards printed. Top 3 in the set minimum. Makes Rograk Silas even better. Yay.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
This is what everybody needed.
That's more Rogsai free spells, right?
Yeah.
I think this might be the official death of Infernal Plunge, though, right? Like, people now have another reason not to sack Rogsai to Infernal Plunge. But yeah, no, I think this is insane.
Darn, you have to play a better card.
Any red deck, right? Like, you're playing the weird, like, Kiki decks or whatever, right? Like, any of those low-color red decks, I think plays this. I think I'm playing it in Atali, right? I'll throw away an Orcish Lumberjack for a counterspell any day of the week. I'll throw away his Holiday for a counterspell so I can recast it out of the command zone. Sure. Yep. Right? Like, throwing away a Rog to take someone's Adnaz with your own Adnaz is like, just like, come on. Like, yeah, this card has so many utilities. Honestly, it might be my vote for best card in the set.
Yeah.
The other one is an enchantment that we'll talk about later. But yeah, This is it's hard to say that with this set though, because everything's fucking good.
Yeah, the set's very push. It's like the top end of this set doesn't feel like it's as high as like previous Modern Horizons, but I feel like the floor in the middle of this is way higher in general. Like, you know what I mean?
See,
like the
I feel like we have a couple
higher.
really big peaks, and then everything else is a lot lower. Actually, like the opposite of that.
Interesting. Next card on our list here is stupid, if I'm being honest. It is Wrath of Skies. Wrath of Skies is they did it. They broke what's a Toxic Deluge. They made better Toxic Deluge, folks. Wrath of Skies is a sorcery that costs X and 2 white. It says you get X energy counters, then you may pay any amount of energy. Destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with mana value less than or equal to the amount of energy paid this way. This is fucking stupid. Like,
I don't think it's as good as you think it is, apparently.
The fact that it hits at minimum 2 CMC and down everything for what, 4 mana is bananas. Like, it's actually very good. And it's also maybe the best
parity on it, though.
What'd you say?
Who's breaking parity on it is my question. You know what I mean?
Well, this is where I was going to say is one of the things that I think is very good. I think this is actually the best energy card outside of Chthonian Nightmare in the set, because it for specifically energy, because this is a really good outlet for mana to generate the energy that you might need, because you can pay 10. So you can pay 12, right? Generate 10 energy, but only pay like a certain like amount of it, and then just have that much energy. Or you can pay none and blow up everybody's mana rocks, which is another thing that you can do. But this is one of those things where I think the fact that it hits so many things is what makes this a much better card. If it was only creatures, I would be much lower on this.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say with cards like this because they don't have anything that like makes a lot of strategies break parity on it, right? Like you need to be like basically playing Planeswalkers for it to not go crazy. But like I don't know what Planeswalker energy deck apart from like OG Atraxa
right.
is doing here, right? Which I do want to say, with all these proliferates, with all energy and all that stuff, I do think that commander has some viability in the current format. I don't know how though, right? Like I think a very intelligent brewer could go in and mess around with a bunch of numbers and bring out something digestible with that commander to me.
Yeah, I could see it. But yeah, no, I think this is pretty good, solidly. Like I think it is generically on its own, like a pretty good card.
Sure. Yeah.
I think your point of like maybe what deck is able to break parity on it's super fair. Yeah. Because like I think about a deck like Tivit, like I wouldn't want to play this in that. But a deck where, you know, maybe you're playing bigger permanents or stuff like that, where you're not too upset about stuff going to your graveyard, or you just don't really care. You don't play those types of effects. This is pretty strong. So worth keeping an eye on. Next card on our list is Bridgeworks Battle. This is a sorcery that costs 2 generic and a green. It says target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. The backside of it is a bolt land.
This is awesome because I finally get to cut Shatter Spell Smashing from a bunch of green red decks. It's just a more efficient fight spell in these colors. That's it. It is a land 90% of the time. But when it's not a land, it's a fight spell. That is good. Like, it is just generically good. I'm probably playing it in Kinnan. I'm probably playing it in Atali. Like, removal spell plus land. Done. Easy. Any of these decks that care about removing a couple small early creatures, like MDFC lands are so good, and they printed a bunch that are removal spells. That's what you want from these. I don't care if they're shitty cost. Like, it's a land most of the time, right? I'm willing to pay 3 mana to be able to potentially win the game.
To have that versatility.
Land. Right, exactly. Like, it's so free in so many decks. There's so many good MDFCs they printed in the set that are just free. The most egregious one we're going to talk about later, right? But like, this is great. Like, free stuff.
Yep.
Very low impact. Obviously, you're not playing it in your 4-color decks, your 3-color decks. Sometimes, in the right poems, low-color decks, these are great. They're so nice, and they finally reward you for playing low-color decks in this format, right? Like, you get a bunch of free lands that are not lands, right? Like, it's just, yeah.
No, I fully agree with you there. Next card here is we've got a new wheel. It's Wheel of Potential. This is a 2 generic and a red sorcery that says you get 3 energy counters. Then you may pay X energy. Each player may exile their hand and draw X cards. If X is 7 or more, you may play cards you own exiled this way until the end of your next turn.
Energy deck good. If not energy deck, very bad.
Yeah. There it is. We're, like I said, we're highlighting energy cards, baby, because there's a deck there somewhere.
If energy X equals 7, very, very good.
if energy don't equals 7, sad.
Sad, very bad.
Sad. No good.
Need good energy.
Yeah. But yeah, that's that card.
The next card on our list today is Consign to Memory. It is an instant that costs 1 blue mana that has Replicate 1 and says, counter target triggered ability or colorless spell.
Hey, Dockside, Stifle. Hey, Thoracle, Stifle. Or counter your Basalt Monolith. I think that's the upsides of the card. The downsides are that it doesn't
really do anything,
which I don't love, and it doesn't hit colored spells, which I don't love.
Yeah.
There's not that many colorless spells you want to counter, except for like Kinnan, realistically. And you can really get the One Ring players.
It also can't. You can't even get the One Ring ability because when they tap it to draw the cards, they're like, okay, so they get they don't
you get the One Ring on the stack is what I'm saying.
I guess you can counter it. Yeah, I don't know. This is bad.
I think that's also something that, boy. Okay, let's small rant here. Hey, everybody. Sometimes it's not worth it to counter the card advantage engine. If you're out there, and I've seen this literally over 5 times now, Swan Song cannot counter the One Ring. I don't know why people think that's a thing, but I've seen it a lot.
Yep.
I've seen it a lot. People go, I guess I can answer this. Why? First of all, why are you countering a One Ring in the first place unless that person is about to take lethal damage? And second of all, Swan Song doesn't hit it.
We need to just do a full episode on how to use your fucking counter spells responsibly, because the amount of people who it'll be like somebody lands a Rhystic Study and then you go to the next person and that person casts a Rhystic Study and then somebody's like, okay, now I'm going to counter it. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But anyways,
yeah,
this card's kind of mid. Moving on.
This card bad. No, it's not mid. It's bad. I'm just going to say it. It's bad. Boo.
Someone will get you with it. Sorry.
You can get got by bad cards. It happens. This is a fun. I don't know how I feel about this card. Null Elemental Blast.
Yeah.
I think this is also a little overhyped.
Yep.
This one it's a Pyroblast. but or a red elemental blast, I should say, or blue elemental blast, but instead it's for multicolored spells. So you can counter target multicolored spell or destroy target multicolored permanent. I think on paper, this sounds really good because, oh man, I can counter Chroms and things like that until you actually play the goddamn format and you realize 90% of the cards you play are not 2 colors.
Think about
most of them are 1.
This format doesn't hit most of them. Emil, Dockside, Breach, Thoracle, Grand Abolisher, Ranger Captain, Onyx Tutor, fucking counter spell. Like
Mystic Study.
If you're gonna play this, play Tail's End, right? Because it counters a commander, right? Like I just don't. Yeah, this card doesn't hit anything. Like it really does not hit anything.
It is bad. It's bad in our format. Like it just doesn't do anything. If you're playing cards that just like straight up are only there to counter commanders, just play Tail's End because you're going to hit more commanders.
Or Draenith.
Oh, but my colorless deck, Ian. I want to play.
No, legit. If you play a colorless deck and you don't realize that this diminishes your card quality, get out. like even if you want to play a colorless deck, this is actively a bad card. Like why are you countering commanders? Yeah. So
remember when we were talking about how Swan Song doesn't counter artifact spells?
Well, the worst part is people are going to get more confused now. This is
but we do have a bird melody of sorts that we can play for you here, which is Strix Serenade. Counter target artifact, creature, or planeswalker spell. Its controller creates a 2/2 blue bird creature token with flying.
I can't wait for Avian Tune, which only counters battles.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's Swan Song, but it hits the other stuff.
It's except for battles. Look at Invasion of Ikoria stonks going up.
Yeah, right. I don't hate this card.
I don't hate it either. I think some people are kind of like shitty about this card. I
think it's significantly better than the ones people are hyped about.
It's literally it's the decks that are playing the long game, right? Like your Talions, the decks that were playing Stern Scolding, light a fucking Stern Scolding on fire in response to this card being printed, right? Like, thank God. But it's more flexible, hits better stuff. Every argument I've ever heard about why Stern Scolding is good, probably put it in bed.
I actually think in Tivit, I'm probably going to play this over what's the one that only hits 2?
Spell Snare. Yeah.
Spell Snare. Like I was
going to say, it hits a lot of the things I'm concerned about with Spell Snare, right? Yep. Which was like Thoracle, Dockside, Grand Abolisher being a lot of them, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't hit Breach or Demonic Tutor, right? Which are the other big ones, but in general, I kind of like this card a pretty good amount. Once again, if you're a Turbo Nos player, don't even look at this card. It is irrelevant for you, right?
But if you're a Turbo Nos player, just look away. We have nothing here for you.
Yeah. But no, it's good for the mid-range and slower decks, right? Like the control, the mid-range, like my Niv Mizzets, my Talions, my Tivits, right? Like all of those are playing this card, I think. How many games have I watched lately that have ended with somebody just losing because a Ranger Captain came down and they don't have the right answer for it? Like this is that,
Yeah, that is very true. No, I think this is pretty good. I think, like you said, control decks, slam dunk. Mid-range decks, depends on what your core looks like. But I think generally speaking, I think it's probably a win there too. Turbo decks, why the fuck are you looking at this? Like, just you don't care about any of these when you're trying to go off, so just don't bother. That's the answer. Next card here on our list is Thraben Charm. When I first started playing Magic, I called it Thraben for some reason. Yeah, ew is correct. Thraben Charm is an instant that costs the generic and a white. And I wonder what Phil would think if I ever said I was going to Thraben University.
Hey, you're Phil from Thraben University. Well, Phil Gallagher, you now have a porn persona. I'm so sorry.
I'm sure he's heard that before. There's no way he hasn't. But yeah, Thraben Charm, You can choose one. Thraben Charm deals damage equal to twice the number of creatures you control to target creature, destroy target enchantment, or exile any number of target players' graveyards. So this is
kind of get lost, but like with some upside, right? Like in creature heavy decks, it's a get lost. It's also like a grave sniper in the breach format. Kind of relevant. I don't know.
I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah,
but breach is pretty good.
And also like let me read the exact text on it too. Okay, no, never mind. But it's, I don't know, exile any number of graveyards, right? Just be like, all right, cool, breach on the stack, cool, exile your graveyard. I'm like, all right, sick, nice. Or, you know, there's a breach on the stack and I want to blow it up. Also, that works too. Mm-hmm. Blows up Ristic Studies, kills creatures, like it just hits a lot of stuff. And it's a fucking common. Like, I don't know. It's the decks that can play Get Lost, but play more creatures than Get Lost decks do, right? Without the downside of feeding Docksides a bunch. So yeah. We love that.
It's a throbbing good time.
Woof.
Next card on our list here is Sink into Stupor. It is a return target spell or non-land permanent and opponent controls to its owner's hand. Costs a generic and 2 blue. And what's it got on the backside? Is that a Bolt land?
The best MDFC ever fucking printed. This card is stupid. Sweet. I cannot believe they actually printed this spell. It is a counter spell that gets around uncounterability. It's literally an unsubstantiate with upside that also is free. Are you what?
Like now for the commenter in the audience that is inevitably going, actually it costs 3 mana. Ian, what is your response to the person in our audience?
Yeah. Free as in it is free to play this in your deck, not it is free mana value wise. Yes, as we said with the other MDFCs earlier, this is the best MDFC ever printed. It's the most efficient rate wise. It does the most flexible stuff. It's the best.
Say goodbye to Seagate Restoration.
Yeah. Well, I mean, or both, right? Depending on the deck, right? But like the ability to be like, oh, hey, there is a lethal threat on the stack. Bonk, you're back to your hand. No Grand Abolisher, no Ranger Captain. Get out of here. No Underworld Breach. Get out of here. I will return your game-winning threat to your opponent. Just like dumb. It's so good. This is any low-color blue deck is playing this card. I cannot.
To be honest, I would consider cutting a land for this in Tivit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right? Like,
I don't know what land, but I would.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the issue with Tivit, right? Is it's like, okay, what am I cutting? But next card is second verse, same as the first. It's Fell the Profane. Destroy target creature or planeswalker for 2 generic and 2 black. And the backside is what's that? Another Bolt land?
Yeah, like after sinking the Stupor, obviously this does not compare as much, but okay, I'll pay 4 mana for a removal spell. I don't give a shit. The only times I've cast a 6 mana Shatter Skull Smashing and I was like, I feel like a champion. Like it's a fucking removal. I will take a bad hero's downfall right now. That's also a land. It's so good. I got you with I feel like a champion, didn't I?
That one did it. That one's that was good. I feel like a champion. I'm a real boy. Yeah, the card's good. I think there is something to be said about the fact that like the play 30 lands community, play 30 lands in your deck community is in shambles right now.
Yeah. The opposite of shambles. Wouldn't they be celebrating right now?
Well, no, because you're cutting lands.
Oh, I see. For me, this is an excuse to play more lands because they're spells.
Well, see, you know what I mean? Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, I see. We're deep in the rabbit hole. All right,
we're deep in the rabbit hole. We're way down in Wonderland. Okay.
Well, Cal, what's next?
What's next? It is Vexing Bauble. This is an artifact that costs 1 generic mana and says whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. It also has an activated ability where you can tap it and sacrifice it for 1 generic mana, draw a card. So if fans of the channel would recognize this as a bit of one would call it a Lavinia-esque card that you can get off of an Urza saga.
It is symmetrical, which kind of sucks, right?
Yeah.
I can't wait for a bunch of people to play this, hate it, and then crack it to draw a card and then not play it again. Realistically speaking, I think that's what is going to happen more than anything else.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. The irony of it is like, oh yeah, cheap artifact decks want it, but it's like, okay, but what are they stopping with it, right? I think this card is actually not that great. The fact that it can crack itself does make it slightly digestible, right? But
it has that Boromir.
It has the Boromir
element to it, right?
One important thing is you do need mana up.
Yep.
That is a very big distinction between that and Boromir.
Yep.
You need to be able to pay for it.
Yep. And again, it's also symmetrical.
And it's symmetrical on its face, right?
Yep.
So significantly worse than a number of effects we already have, realistically speaking, that are already kind of underwhelming. Atali players everywhere are groaning. It's mid, in my opinion, realistically. But we'll see what happens.
You know what? In Modern, though, this is hot.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
In Modern, you're just like, okay, on the play, here's a Vexing Bauble. Fuck your elementals.
Yeah, or your Cascade decks, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, those two. I think mostly about Grief because fucking God, Grief is everywhere.
Oh yeah, dude, fuck your scam deck for sure.
Yeah. Next card on the list, Disruptor Flute. This is an artifact that costs 2 generic and has flash and says, as Disruptor Flute enters the battlefield, choose a card name. Spells with the chosen name cost 3 generic more to cast. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So this is like a Sorcerer Spyglass and then some.
It's great. I love this card. Genuinely. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's so you don't get to look at the hands, right? Which is definitely different from Spyglass, right? But it's a flash pithing needle.
Yeah.
With upside. Your opponent goes, all right, cool. End step. I'm going to go tutor this creature. Cool. I will in response flash in my flute. That costs 3 more. Okay. Yeah, my flute. There's so many scenarios in which you're just like the biggest problem with pithing needle-esque effects.
Disrupting with my flute.
I was literally thinking, I was like, I want to go on stream and just have one of these in my deck and then just have a recorder right next to me. Someone's just like, all right, Basalt Monolith on the Is that 3 blind mice? I was also thinking of the one of my favorite online videos is just the Avengers theme song played on the recorder. Yeah. And like that's the energy I kind of want with my life.
Yeah, no, this is cool. It's neat. I don't have a whole lot to say about it.
Right? Like I like it in the Tivits of the world. I like it in the maybe not Winota, but like I could see that esque effect, right? I think the slower controlling decks, like Talion especially, like I think this card goes there.
Yeah, I don't know also, that I like it in Tivit, but I also
is one of the funniest anti-breach decks.
What'd you say?
Naming Lion's Eye Diamond is one of the funniest anti-breach decks.
Very true. That's very funny, but you can just do that with like any like pithing needle or any of them, right?
Right, but not an instant speed. That's the thing, right? The flash on this card is defining this card, right?
I would like to cast LED. Okay, in response, Disruptor Flute, name LED. Get fucked.
Yeah, can't be activated, and then they're like, all right, well, we'll cast it in my graveyard, and it's like, cool, that's cost 3.
For those at home that are wondering, but it says mana abilities. LED is not a mana ability.
Isn't it?
No, it is not. It is it's something to do with like how you activate it or whatever.
Well, it
way
says
it's worded.
It can only be activated at instant speed, right? So
yeah,
I just didn't think that made it not a mana ability.
No,
so.
it's the same reason that like what's it called? Deathrite Shaman's not a mana ability either.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Or yeah.
So it's because like it has like a secondary thing that it relies on or whatever. I forget exactly what the reasoning is. Somebody in the comments can explain to me exactly why. I'm a judge. I should know these things, but I do know that it's not a mana ability. That it, like I know the function. I don't know the why. Next card on our list is Unstable Amulet. I've been watching a little bit of What We Do in the Shadows, so I'm like channeling my inner Matt Berry right now.
Yeah, sure.
Unstable Amulet. What'd you say?
This card's sick.
Yeah, this card's cool. It enters the battlefield. You get 2 energy. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Unstable Amulet deals 1 damage to each opponent. And then you can tap it and pay 2 energy and exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until you exile another card with Unstable Amulet.
Legitimate question. Is this one of the best Obnixilis cards ever printed?
This might be, actually.
It has utility in a lot of spaces, but specifically in Obnix, the ability to be like, cool, I've exiled the card. I'm going to cast a thing off of this. Trigger, ping you all. All right, flip another card off Obnixilis. All right, cool. I got another thing. Cast, flip, true. Like.
Mm-hmm.
What?
That's how I
does
feel.
Not need energy synergies to work. It immediately can refund itself by cantripping. With the exile part, it does it on its own. Energy just makes it even better. There's Prosper, there's Obnixilis. Like, this is just a good card, like, period. I think this card is very well statted, very efficiently costed, and decks that love exile stuff are going to love this card, period.
Prosper, Florian, Obnixilis, all that good stuff. Like
Alcohol, then, yep, absolutely.
Next card on our list is Winter Moon.
Mm-hmm.
It is a 2 generic artifact that says players can't untap more than 1 non-basic land during their untap steps.
Mm-hmm.
This is another Winter Orb, but it's not an orb, it's a moon.
Which is cool, too, because, like, you can play it in mono white, you can play it in mono green, you can play it in mono black. Like, this is actually kind of a real thing. Like, I don't hate if I'm playing, like, a Keurig style deck, just being like, cool, here's my Winter Moon, now you can't hold up your counter spells for my turn, right? Like, even if the deck tries to win turn 1, turn 2, like, just playing one single card that says asymmetrical, everybody else get effed, right? Like go to playing Magus, right? Like, it's the same kind of energy there, you know? Now, I love that shit, though. It's a really cool card. I think this is, like, it's not the best in every deck, right? But there's a lot of decks that are going to like this card, and I think
I think low color decks that can afford to play a lot of basics are going to love this.
Like 1 to sometimes extreme 3 color decks, right? Are going to play this card, period.
Yeah, that's neat. I am a fan.
Mm-hmm.
So we're moving to the enchantment section of our video. And this card is, man, they really, I swear, ever since they banned Birthing Pod, they have been trying to make Birthing Pod.
You miss it. But
they're like, how do we balance this somehow?
Yeah.
And they tried it this time with Birthing Ritual. This is a generic in a green enchantment that says at the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature, look at the top 7 cards of your library. Then you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, you may put a creature card with mana value X or less from among those cards onto the battlefield, where X is 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is sweet.
Yeah,
this is really cool.
Are just loving this, right? Like, sometimes at end step you can just get a dockside, right? Like, you can look too. You look first. You don't have to do anything.
And you can just not do anything and then just shuffle away 7 cards.
Right. That's the cool part about this card. Also, like, if for some reason you're playing some sort of like top deck manipulation style deck, is it conditional that if you control a creature, look at the tops? And okay, so. You do always have to look, right? So you can't choose not to look, unfortunately. But like, Still, I think this is a really good card, and it's not like they can respond to you finding something, right? They only like they get a response to the trigger, and then the thing hits the field, right? So you can just sort of end step a Grand Abolisher or a Dockside, and it is end step, right? So you're not just like immediately popping off, but it's just kind of free in a lot of decks, right? I know I've been using that word a lot lately, but
I am wondering if there are decks that play like Sylvan Library, that this might just be a little better than.
I don't think so, but I understand your point.
Yeah. I think a lot of cards with this. And if you're in a creature-centric deck, like you're playing a creature combo like deck, you might like this more from the perspective of like you have that ability to just...
If you're literally playing pod, I think this is a card that you want more than that, right? But I'm talking about like, because you can do crazy stuff like, like sack Dockside, get a Renegade Rally or bring it back.
Right.
You know what I mean? That kind of stuff is very real. So, or like sack a Derevi, get in the meal, start flickering it, or a Felidar Guardian or whatever, right? Like there's actually really, they're very real things, but you have to be playing that pod style of deck for it to be like really, really auto-includy. I think I like it in like a Kenrith though, where you like, you don't care about your stuff. And like,
that's what I was thinking about testing it in Kenrith was I felt like it was a good slot over like a Sylvan Library in that deck.
I can't guarantee it in that deck, but like, I do think it is good.
Well, the other part about it with Kenrith, right, is that Kenrith is like so you get like, you're going to be able to hit on whatever you want if you have Kenrith out, right? Sure. So if there's a creature in that you want, you know, unless you hit fucking Atali, you're going to be able to put whatever you want onto the battlefield. Yeah. So I think that's my thought with it, but Birthing Ritual, everybody. Next card on the list. It is a Charitable Levy. It is a it is an enchantment that costs a generic and a white. And it says non-creature spells cost a generic more to cast. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, put a collection counter on Charitable Levy. Then if there are 3 or more collection counters on it, sacrifice it. If you do draw a card, then you may search your library for a Plains card and put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle.
I think this card is kind of mid, if I'm being honest. Thorn effects are an all-time low in cEDH. The fact that this one doesn't even stay around for a while, it's like, I get it as a disruptive piece, right? So if you want like something in the early game that like vaguely inconveniences your opponents while also allowing you to keep like your Sisay-esque style game plan going, I just don't think, like, I think it's a good tempo piece and that's it. I really don't think it's great. Be honest,
it like comes down. It's like there for like a turn cycle, gets you a card and ramps you a little bit, which isn't bad.
One in a white gets you a lot of really broken cards in this format, and this is not one of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. I don't disagree with you at all. One in a black can get you a lot of broken cards, though, and this next one is one of them. This is Chthonian Nightmare. It is an enchantment that costs a generic and a black, and it says when Chthonian Nightmare enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy counters. You can pay X energy, sacrifice a creature, return Chthonian Nightmare to its owner's hand, and return target creature card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. Ding, 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 ding. We broke Dockside, guys. We did it. We did it.
This is the other card that I mentioned being tied for the best card in the set.
This card's nuts.
He's crazy.
I guess I said the other card because it was like I kind of just wrote this card in as the best card in the set and just like kind of was thinking other cards in the set.
You're like,
I guess
of the cards that have to put in mental effort to analyze. Sure.
Of the other cards that are not just straightforwardly broken. Granted, the Nantucket is like straightforwardly broken, but this one more so because it just doesn't even ask that much for you to combo with. It's already like on rate as an energy generator. And the next thing is it doesn't even fucking matter if you want to play energy or not, because with this in a Dockside or this in a this in anything that makes 2 mana, right? You can just be like infinite energy.
It needs to make 4 mana, but yeah.
No, only need to make 2 because this costs 2. And you return this to your hand, you return the creature to the battlefield.
Right.
So
you need to make 4 mana, so you have the double Chthonian cast. That's why. To net even with it. Because you have to cast Cthonian Nightmare twice. You have to get the thing back to the battlefield, and then sacrifice it to replace it with another thing.
Right.
Right.
No, I'm saying that if you already have something on the battlefield that makes 2 mana when it enters or something like that.
So if you have like 2 Cloud of Fairies, basically, like
sure. Anything that like makes some amount of mana, right? You just kind of go off with it. Yeah. And so like this is really strong for some pretty obvious reasons.
Yeah, it's the best Dockside enabler maybe ever printed. It's actually insane. Emil's obviously the best, but like this is pretty fucking close, if I'm being honest.
I think this is better because it goes in more things.
Yeah. But like I see what you're saying.
Like Emil gets locked into white-green decks, right? Which kind of closes off to how many decks it can be played in. Yeah, this can be played in anything else.
In the vacuum, what I'm saying though is like in the vacuum, Emil is incomparable as far as Dockside is, right? Whereas this is like very fucking close, and also the fact that it's 2 mana is dumb, right? So as long as your Dockside makes 5. Any creature with mana value 4 or less goes infinite with this. Just replacing, swapping. You can do it with many commanders. You can do it with the Thrasios. It makes Thrasios File Smasher way better. It's another outlet for Sisay. It's another outlet for a number of other decks. It doesn't work with Kenrith itself, but it works with every creature in Kenrith, right? You can easily play it there. One of the best Corvold cards ever submitted into a piece of paper, right? Like, I mean, like Corvold's so stupid with this card, right? But like, this is a probably mistake of a card, if I'm being honest.
100%.
Very, very good. They reprinted basically a banned card as far as our format's concerned, and for Dockside purposes, it's better than Recurring Nightmare, and that's fucking saying something, right? Like, it is better than a banned card in this format, right? So, in that,
let's see how long it sticks around.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know that it's going to get banned, right? But like, good. Fun part is like you don't even need an Owl in the command zone. You just need like Dockside and a Bowmasters in this, right? And it's just like boop 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 done, right? Like, yeah, exactly. This is a very powerful card. Dockside loops with the price very strong. There are going to be other cards that do come out where they're gonna be relevant for this, right? You can even like Peregrine Drake and a 1-drop also combos with this card, which is not really much of anything, but it's something, I guess.
Peregrine Drake combos with a lot of stuff, to be fair.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this is genuinely a very powerful card, and would not be surprised to see it around for X amount of time, right? It's strong.
Next card on the list is Powerbalance. It is an enchantment that costs 2 red and says whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost if the 2 spells have the same mana value. It's backwards counterbalance.
This card's very good. Because what it does that counterbalance doesn't do is counterbalance is strictly defensive. This is proactive, right? So, if someone casts a 1-drop and you flip over your Swan Song, hell yeah, free counterspell, we relevant. It's just the same as counterbalance there, right? But like, sometimes you're going to be playing, I don't know if you're going to play this in Sisay, but like sometimes you're playing Sisay, right? And your opponent goes, cool, cast a Demonic Tutor. And you're like, yeah, in response, I'm going to Worldly Tutor, put Dockside on top and win this game. Before that spell ever resolves. That's pretty good.
Turns out.
Yeah. The card has a lot of upside. I think there's going to be a lot of testing to see if this is broken or just a good value piece, right? But like, in my Atalis, in my low color red decks, I'm playing it. And then in my higher color decks, I'm really considering it.
I'm inclined to believe that it's like slightly better than counterbalance.
Yeah, I am too.
Like, I think it is about that good. Which is,
I can see this being played in Grixis decks too, right? Like, just once again, 100%. Like picking over a 2 and then like being like, oh, well, there's Demonic Tutor on top. Like, oh no, I guess I'll cast a free Demonic.
I think there's even more. I think what this does that I think is even, if it does anything for the format, it actually gives you a reason to fucking play Mystical Tutor, right? Yeah. Because like, if it really gives you a reason to play that, because if somebody like, let's say you're playing a control deck, right? And you want to play this defensively. Mystical Tutor for Force of Will, put it on top. Oh, they played it on nauseam, counters the right? Or I think this is a slam dunk in Rogsai personally, because somebody goes to play their Ad Nauseam, in response Mystical Tutor, put Ad Nauseam on top. I would like to Ad Nauseam on top, please.
Yep.
Or somebody demonic tutors or tries to do something, you turn around and you can put your Final Fortune on top of it. Or let's say you're in a green deck that has access to blue and black. So you're playing a 5-color deck or a 4-color deck. Somebody casts a 2-mana spell and you have Demonic Consultation in hand, Worldly Tutor, Thassa's Oracle on top. I would like to cast Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, game is over. Like, those are the type of situations where I think this is where, like, I think it has the same baseline utility of Counterbalance, but is just better. Like, so much better.
I think like blue-red balance top decks are going to be kind of real, right? Like, especially with the new colorless card we just talked about. Like, I'm actually really excited to explore that space. It's like one of my favorite ways to play Magic. It's just like that very incremental, like, sort of attrition control. We also get to play it like a Blue Moon strategy because they just gave us a bunch of more Magusi. So I'm actually really excited for, like, is it top control? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we can actually play like is it Murktide strategy almost in this format now, which is really cool. But yeah, this is good.
Prom Jessica is a real deck. I think it's kind of funny. This also, like, plus a Thrasios-esque deck, right? Like, I could easily see like a Throg adaptation, Thrasios Rograk, where you just play Power Balance and Counterbalance on top and stuff. Yeah.
No, I think this is super solid. And I think the ability to win on top of people is where this is going to be nutty. So
also, I think one thing that's kind of underrated about this card compared to Counterbalance is that you can Simian Spirit Guide and Rite of Flame into this, which is, like, actually pretty fucking real, right? Like, that is something that gets kind of overlooked all the time. Also, is this crazy in Kark Sakashima, or is it just me?
No, it's very good, I think.
Okay.
I also thought it was a card. I thought it was obviously a Kark Sakashima card, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think about that deck a lot, but I was just like, oh yeah, you flip the card off the top and then you cast it, and then it has multiple Kark triggers, and then, okay, well, they countered your thing that was kind of important, but now you just got like 3 more free cards in the counter spell fight, and it's
we'll have to have Ken on to do like an annual summit thing to, like, give us the state of Kark Sakashima.
Yeah. Every time I think about playing that deck, every time I think about playing that deck, I go, oh yeah, no one's ever gonna let me resolve a Kark. Oh shit, all right.
Never mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Next card on the list is Utter Insignificance. This is a aura that costs a generic and a blue, has flash, you enchant a creature, and it says enchanted creature loses all abilities and has base power and toughness 1/1, and has an activated ability of 2 generic and a colorless. Exile enchanted creature. They did it. They made what's the 1/1 enchant, the enchantment that makes stuff 1/1s that I'm thinking of, that's white. Why can't I find it?
Oh, the Darksteel mutation?
Yeah, they made Darksteel mutation better. They gave it flash and let you permanently deal with a thing. This is hot. I like this card.
Yeah, I think they had one of these already. Yeah, Mystic Subdual is the -2/-0 loses all abilities. I think these are actually very underrated effects. And actually, they did Eaten by Piranhas too. Okay, so there's 3 of these, not to mention the Storm one that we're going to talk about later, I believe. Or no, we're not talking about that. I don't think we're
talking about it, but there is a Storm one of these as well.
It's literally this effect, but it has Storm and can copy itself multiple times over, right? But, like, TLDR, there's a bunch of these now. I kind of, like, caught on to these effects in decks like Rollknock, right? Because these are permanents that are the effect of an instant or sorcery, basically, right? Which I do think is very real. Obviously, it can be, like, removed and stuff like that. But, you know, there's a pesky Kinnan on your board, right? And instant speed, right? Unset before my turn, can lose all abilities. Assault Monolith on the stack can lose all abilities, right? Emil loses all abilities. Sisay loses all abilities, right? Like, if you think Sisay is a problem in your local metagame, what if it didn't have any fucking text? Right? Like, that's basically the TLDR of this. And the flash part of it makes it infinitely more digestible than something like a Canvas Transformation, even though that card cantrips, right? So,
yeah, no, I totally agree. Next card on the list is Kozilek's Unsealing. This is a 2 generic and a blue enchantment that is devoid. And it says, whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4, 5, or 6, create 2 Eldrazi spawn creature tokens that sack to added colorless. And whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 7 or greater, draw 3 cards. I did not realize that it was cast a creature spell. I thought it was a colorless creature spell. This is a lot better than I thought it was. What the fuck?
You know what? If only there was a 7 mana commander that, I don't know, could be in blue that people cast very frequently out of the command zone for a very cheap rate. What can... Maybe, I don't know.
Future Cal, make sure that you slowly fade Atraxa in on the screen. No. That's not even close to the one I'm thinking about. What are you
as much
thinking
as I
about?
love Atraxa, I think you don't even touch this in Atraxa. This is the best, not the best. This is one of the best Dargo cards ever printed.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
One red mana for an Ancestral Recall, I will take that rate, personally. This plus Phyrexian Altar just wins the game because you draw your entire deck. Like it's another. They keep making Dargo enablers, and this is just like 3 mana Phyrexian Altar.
Are we
Dargo.
gonna visit Teamer Dargo now? Like, is this makes me want to play that deck a little bit.
The Dargo list. Oh, do I want to say this on the podcast? Because I've been cooking a little bit. I'm not sure if I want to drop this one. There's a Dargo list I'm working on that I've not heard anyone work on that I will talk to you about outside of the podcast because I want to have a list before I just start going off about this commander. But we'll chat, we'll talk, and then Mind Sculptors audience, you and I will talk very soon. After I want to get a chance to play it because I'm cooking. You know what I mean? Like
he's cooking. It's meth, but he's cooking. No, this is a lot better than I thought it was. I thought this was a only colorless creature spell. No, this is a lot better than I thought it was. Yeah. No, this card's solid. I also just got to point out that this card in Modern is going to be really fucking annoying.
Big silly billies. You think about all those the Sojourner's Companion or whatever. I
wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about the goddamn Affinity or what was it? The Pitch Elementals.
Pitch Elementals, sure, but like the Affinity cards is like dumb, right? Like,
for sure. I yes, you are correct, but I that wasn't even what was on my radar.
I'm going to cast a Mirror Enforcer for free and draw 3. Like, what? Excuse me?
Get wrecked, Thought Monitor. Yeah. You wish you were this good.
No, because Thought Monitor draws 5.
True.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Someone who really likes Modern Affinity. Yeah, for sure. This is made a Modern Affinity like actually way better.
We should talk after. We should do a Modern League of Affinity because I'd be down for that. Next card on the list. Do I have to talk about this card? That's good. They printed Necropotence again. To the shock and awe of everybody, it's good.
It's slightly worse Necropotence. It's Necropotence at home. All the Turbo players are saying it's fine. I believe them. Okay. That's it. I don't need to talk about the card.
But people are probably going to be mad at us because we aren't really talking about this in any like depth. But like, what the fuck do you want me to say about this? Like, it's
literally just a slightly worse Necropotence. Yeah,
it's Necropotence.
Yeah.
What do you want me? Oh, your maximum hand size is 5. Oh fuck no. Oh well, no way. What are you gonna do when you're fucking winning on the end step anyway? Like What can I possibly say about this card?
Like for real, there's a couple like interesting differentials, right? Like it doesn't work with Bosa Citadel because you have to pay. It's an end step trigger.
Yeah.
It does draw cards too, right? So like in response to someone's end step, and this is where like as I mentioned, a lot worse. In response to their end step trigger, you flash into Bowmasters, ping your opponent, and they're like, "Well, I can't pay any amount of life into this, or else I die." Right? Like is kind of the idea. It's a much worse grind plan than original Necropotence, and the other thing is there is no replacement effect. So often with Necropotence, your opponents can instant speed breach in response to the cards being exiled.
Yeah, it's not a trigger; it's just
it just is a replacement effect, right? So you cannot respond to cards being exiled from this card.
Yeah. That being said, I'm pretty sure everybody just can play both.
Sure.
So
yeah.
there's no reason
that's
not
my
to,
point, right? Like there's not much to talk about here because it's like if you're playing Necropotence and your deck is pretty proactive and you don't care about the grind plan, you just play this.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm playing this in like Corvold per se, right? Like I think Necropotence is good in Corvold, but like I think the downside's kind of real in that one.
Corvold's not really a Necro deck.
Yeah, it's opinion. Like it plays it, don't get me wrong, but like I actually like the grind plan on
it's not a Necro deck the same way as like Rog's like a Necro deck, right?
No,
like,
I agree. It's like Born is a very real card.
Yeah.
And that's important for this conversation. Yeah. That's about it.
Yeah.
Necrodominance is fine. I don't like it. It's just much worse than Necropotence. It'll probably see play.
Yep. It's a card. It's a fine card. This next card's cool. I'm blown away by this. Actually, every time I read this card, I get more like into it because it's a weird one. But hey guys, do you remember 2 years ago when I made that joke at the expense of Allurn players?
Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this, at a distance of roughly 92 million miles, is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet, whose ape-descended life forms are so amazingly primitive, that they still think Allurn combos are a pretty neat idea.
Well, what if instead I gave you Primal Prayers, which is an enchantment that costs 2 generic and 2 green, and it says, when Primal Prayers enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. You may cast creature spells with mana value 3 or less by paying an energy rather than paying their mana costs. If you cast a spell this way, you may cast it as though it had flash. What I just said was, for 1 energy, creature spells with mana value 3 or less are free and have flash. That is pretty good.
I'm interested to see what actually happens.
I am too. I will like to point this out. This is better than Allurn.
Look, asymmetrical is pretty fucking good, right? Like,
yeah, and Allurn sucks. So
that's fair. It combos way less than Allurn does, right? But like, basically, you get 2 free sneak attacks of small creatures for 4 mana. I don't know if I love it, but like, it's cool, right? I could see getting 1 off of this. I could see paying an energy and then sniping a Thoracle Console, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. As I said, don't particularly love it, but I can at least get behind it.
Listen, it's better than your fucking Allurn.
Yeah, fair.
Allurn combos are, in fact, not a neat idea.
I do agree with that part.
What'd you say?
I said I do agree with that part for sure. There's also, if you have less than 2 energy, Green Pelt Rampager makes infinite ETBs.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's whatever. First, we have a red land here, Arena of Glory. It is a land, says it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain. Red decks tend to have those. Taps for a red mana. And then for red and tap, you can exert Arena of Glory, meaning it doesn't untap during the next untap step, and add red. If that mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains haste. Hey, Narset players who just got one of the best upgrade of all time in Lava Spur Boots, now you have a land that does it too. There are occasionally fringe cEDH decks that care about giving your very powerful creatures haste.
Mm-hmm.
That being the most exemplary of them, the easiest thing to pull up when I talk about this. I actually just played the dual land event. I don't know if I told you this, but I played against Narset in the top 4, and they almost fucking crushed us. It was really good. But yeah, this is just a free upgrade for that deck, like just genuinely sick. There are other decks once again out there that care about this. There's things like, the Rowan decks, or, way back in the day, there was like the Gigantha decks, which I actually like don't think sucks when you have a land that does this kind of stuff, right? There's other decks out there that do this thing too, right? Just caring about your creatures having haste, going in combat, doing some kind of busted stuff. I could see it technically in a Winota deck, realistically. Yeah. Red like haste. Haste good. Strong make creature haste go good. Fast. Haste strong.
Strong.
Slow creature, no good win.
I gotta say, we have the here on our pack, and I don't know, I'll probably use the regular art when I put this video together, but the art that we have of it is the full art, and I gotta say, it kind of looks like a Mario Kart track to me. Yeah. It just, the way it hits my eyes, the way it's like colored, is it looks like just a little like CG and a little like it's a Mario Kart Crash Team Racing track. And that's what it made me think of. So, next card on the list is Shifting Woodland. It is another land in this cycle, but this time, instead of mountains, it's forests. Instead of tapping for red, this time instead, it taps for green. And the activated ability this time, instead of activating with red, this time it needs Delirium. And you pay 2 generic and 2 green. And the Delirium ability on it is Shifting Woodland becomes a copy of target permanent card in your graveyard until end of turn. Activate only if there are 3 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. And just a reminder, it's a green ability.
This is stupid. This is also in the top 5 cards of the set.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very dumb magic card. Holy shit. Like actually holy shit. Now, one important distinction, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, Callahan, as you're tapping it, whatever you become a copy of is tapped, right?
You don't have to tap it to pay for the ability.
Oh, you don't even have to tap it.
You just have to have Delirium.
It can tap for its own ability?
Can. So it really only costs 3.
I thought it was so good, and that was before I knew how. Oh my god, this card is so dumb.
Then make your day better.
You don't get ETBs, but like this is an uncounterable fucking reanimate. Like this is an uncounterable reanimate that says you don't get an ETB. I do not give a shit. If I'm playing some like Protean Hulk strategy and this is my graveyard, like okay, it's a Protean Hulk, sack my land. It can be a Razaketh. Razaketh does not need to be untapped. I don't give a fuck. Like my Emil died earlier in the game. Okay, it's a tapped Emil. If only I could activate sideways, make it flicker stuff. Still does it. It's free.
Oh no,
it's
my Derevi's in the graveyard. Whatever shall I do?
Yeah. Like actually, and so like you can't ETB, you can't infinitely flicker it. Like does not matter. It's any of your outlets that get blown out early in the game. Also, I don't care if my Underworld Breach is tapped. Like, if my Underworld Breach gets blown up and it's tapped in my graveyard, it's still pretty damn good.
How do you feel about Heuristic Study being tapped? Actually, it's pretty bad as a Heuristic Study, but...
like, sure, it's a one-turn Heuristic Study, but, like, this is an uncounterable regrow a Breach.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you have Delirium, which, I don't know, do the Breach decks often have Delirium, Callahan? Do they do that every once in a while?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes.
Stupid cards, like your opponent's about to pop off, you're playing Kinnan, you got your board wiped already. No, my land is a Void Winnower. Cease your even mana costs. I've had enough of it. Like, I cannot... It's so good. This card is dumb.
Very good. There are going to be people in the comments who are going to be like, no, Ian, well, Delirium is hard to turn on.
Especially not in green decks in this format. Like, I don't... Yeah. Oh, no. It's a Necropotence for a turn that I had to tap 3 green mana for. Fuck me. Like, it's... like, it is... Yeah. This card is silly. One mana, put a Dockside in my hand is like nothing we have right now. Like...
Actually, we do have that right now. The card is called
Worldly Tutor.
It's called Traverse the Ulvenwald. The card exists. The card exists, Ian. You don't play it. Ian, it exists and you don't play it. It exists.
Delirium is way harder. Delirium is way harder than like that.
It's 4 cards. It turns on in like an instant. Are you kidding me?
You're so wrong.
I'm not. I do it all the time.
No, how often are you binning in enchantment? Like, how often are you binning? Like these are like, no. Like, and by
the Necropotence part, by the way, when you would go to discard cards, it would be no longer a Necropotence.
That's, yeah.
It's not Necropotence anymore. It's just
this also is not timing restricted, right?
It's not.
Like this, I would understand if this said activate this only on your turn. It does not fucking say that. Like,
no, it's just like go to town, boss. Like, go off,
yeah.
King.
I legitimately, like, I cannot believe this is real. Like, in the best way. I think this is a very powerful card. And we're gonna, like, any deck that can be a low color green deck that plays this is awesome. Like, we talked earlier, or at least multiple times in past episodes, how like green needed something to make it like
this set. Green has gotten a lot of things. I feel like
this is the best green thing that's ever happened in years. Like genuinely in years, this is the best green thing. 6 and this card are like just dumb.
I would even say Springheart Nantucko. I would say Fanatic Aronis, like Ella Domri, like across the board. Yeah, the green cards in the set were
real love. Yeah,
definitely needed.
I think this is like uncomparable. Like in as far as like, or incomparable, whatever. But compared to like what existed previously, I think there's nothing that like does what this does. Like you entomb something powerful, and it's just like it's a Balls of Citadel. Cal, I'm going to entomb my Citadel, and they're like, okay, well, you ain't reanimating it, and you're like, play my land drop. Like it does not. Like, permanence got such a boost between this and 6. Like, I cannot stress enough how much you're going to have a migraine over the fact that someone is able to just tap this and it becomes a breach. Like, I cannot stress enough how much that is
funny is you can do this on other people's turns with a breach. So if there's a breach in somebody's graveyard, you can just like kind of do it on top of everything, and it doesn't exile it, so it just stays there. So if you don't win on that turn somehow, you could just like make a breach, interact with people, and still have stuff in your graveyard, and then like go to your turn and be like, okay, I win. Like,
yeah, it is only your graveyard, to be clear.
No, I know, but my point is you have a breach, and it's in your graveyard, and you're like, oh shucks, darn it, I guess I'm interacting with you guys.
Yeah, no, this is like actually very real. I cannot believe this card is printed, to be honest. I thought there would be like at least 2 or 3 more restrictive text lines on this card, but it's like, no, we're good. And don't get me wrong, not having ETBs is technically a real downside.
Technically.
Yeah, I said what I said. You know what I mean? Like, I just the card Entomb and Survival of the Fittest maybe have never been this good.
You know what? I feel like this set crop rotation got a big ass upgrade in general. Like, crop rotation feels a lot more uncuttable these days. Yeah.
Between how good E-Zone is right now and this card, like crop rotation is at an all-time high. And
I fully agree.
Yeah.
Next card on the list. What'd you say?
It's a good set for lands. I like that. That is a good thing to be pumping into cEDH. I don't want to see like a Necrodominance every set, but you know what I do want to see? I want to see lands that do stuff, that reward you for being in lower color decks, that actually make it worth your while to play diverse strategies.
Right? Not just be a 5-color soup deck.
Yeah, and it's not just like oh, the card's good. Like, yeah, you probably can support it in certain 5-color, 4-color, 3-color decks, but like it's better when you can easily support a card like this, right? Like, I love that.
100%.
Anyways,
next card on the list is Spymaster's Vault. This is the black version of this cycle, and it taps for black. You can tap it. Has the activated ability, costs a black, and you tap it. Target creature you control connives X, where X is the number of creatures that died this turn. Again, also not timing restricted.
Yeah, it's just like a kind of a nice one, right? Like, it's by far the worst of these abilities, but also
it's a good value piece. I think it's better than like, it kind of reminds me of like Castle Ardenvale, but like a little bit better.
Yeah, I think like anytime you're playing any sort of reanimator stuff, you're like, okay, sure, I'll take some free connives. Like,
right.
Like, just general combat math happened. Like, okay, cool. Like, draw 2, discard 2. Sure.
Yeah. No, 100%. Again, it's nothing to write home about. But it's pretty cool. Last card on our list is Urza's Cave. That's right, folks. And Urza's Land has made it into the list. Urza's Cave taps for a colorless, and you can also pay 3, tap it, sacrifice it, and search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. That's right, folks. This gets your Gaia's Cradle.
It gets your Gaia's Cradle.
You're shifting Woodland.
Your emergent zone. You're shifting Woodland. It gets everything. This
for the
card
low price of 3 mana.
Yeah. No, I mean, any sort of grindy decks, right? Like if
Yeah.
I'm playing like a Rog Thrasio style deck, I'm like, sure, right? Like Cradle is so important to the strategy. And yes, the land comes in tapped. This is a setup card, right? Like it's not crop rotation, right? But it also doesn't cost a slot in your deck like crop rotation does, right? It is a colorless land. If you can support a colorless land, this is a very good colorless land to support. You know what else it gets, Cal? Fucking Cavern of Souls. That's a pretty good land to just have out of nowhere that your opponents are not usually ready for to just get sniped off of, right? Probably going to play this one in Italy, right? Like we play Cavern, we play Gaia's Cradle, thinking about E-Zone. So like, playing Shifting Woodland for sure.
Shifting Woodland.
Like, Woodland. Yeah, this is...
you're a fucker from Boston. You say rum. You need to...
Oh yeah, I say rum. Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's... Don't over-enunciate Shifting Woodland.
Woodland. Yeah, you don't say Woodland, you say Woodland. Yeah. Yeah, Boston.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's Boston. Everything.
Yeah. Woodland. Yeah, it's the hard lands. We can get some wood.
Well, that is our main set review. If they haven't fully spoiled the Commander set, but I think we'll probably do a thing on the Commander set at some point.
As of time of recording, to be clear.
Yeah, as of time of recording, there wasn't a ton that we saw in the Commander set that was like insane. But that could change. So, but as of time of recording, I will say the Undertaker is my new favorite Magic card. Bless you.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's MH3. There's a lot of stuff left on the cutting room floor of the set. There's a lot of cool stuff in the set. What are your thoughts on the set overall, especially when you compare them up against the other Horizon sets?
I feel like we have like 5 cards I'm really, really excited about, and then like a bunch of role players here and there, right? I do like that this is MDFC focused. I do like that for the format. I think it creates a healthier space. I think it promotes lower colored decks. I think more colorless lands and things like that help to create diversity in the metagame. They give benefits to decks that need benefits. And they allow for things like a prevention of mana screw if you're playing a 2-color deck compared to that of a 4-color deck, right? Like the idea that like a Niv Mizzet or Italian can have a counterspell or a land is like kind of fucking real, right? So we love that. That being said, it does mean like we have to balance things a little bit, right? The flares, I wish they hadn't, but it is what it is. If I'm being honest, I really wish they would just stop with those. I like a responsible format.
Give us less flares and more Strix Serenades.
Yeah. I think every deck or every card that like promotes some of these just fundamentally broken strategies that are just like have a 0-drop red commander on turn 1, like you know what I mean. Like don't get me wrong, Rograk's one of my favorite card designs of all time. Doesn't mean I think the deck needs any more tools, right? Like I don't want another Necrodominance. I don't want my one complaint about this set is I think the legally distinct reprints are a little lame for me, to be honest. Like Birthing Pod at home, Necropotence at home.
Well, it's like Birthing Pod. I think it just like it doesn't feel like Birthing Pod at home. It feels like a amalgamation of like Sylvan Library and Birthing Pod and Once Upon a Time, and it's like this weird amalgamation of cards.
I agree, and don't get me wrong, like I think it's that design is the best of the ones that I called out, right? Yeah, but like Cthonian Nightmare, despite it being a cool card for cEDH, like the design wise, I really wish they just hadn't. I don't think Necrodominance is a good card for the format. I think it's just like they wanted Necropotence in Modern. They were like, but we don't want Necropotence in Modern. It's like, can you just pick one?
What if we just like, don't?
Yeah.
Right?
Like, I agree. So like that's kind of my ish with it. But like at the end of the day, I'm excited for some of the stuff to come out of this format. I think like once again, land stuff, big ups on
Power Balance, cool card.
Yeah.
Again, I think Power Balance is like, if you're gonna do that play on stuff, I think Power Balance is the way to do it.
Right, like a shifted version of an effect, not necessarily like, no, I completely agree with you.
And also, I think Primal Prayers is like another way of doing it too. Like, I think that's a cool way of like working in energy and like incentivizing that while also giving you this like known effective card.
Right. And you know, it's tough too, because like I want to, you know, kind of shit on the reprint mentality here, right? But like Harbinger of the Sea is also one of the cards I'm most excited for, right? But that's just because, once again, strategies that encourage low color decks and punish high color decks are, I think, healthy for the format. In general, not just like literally a preference thing, but like I think the more diversity is in the format, the more reasons there are to play low color decks, the more it's just not soup dot format, right? And I think that is very real. And I think Harbinger, more than any card in this set, has a chance to help promote the format in a healthy way.
I also think Volatile Stormdrake is going to make a more of a splash than I think we think right off the bat. I think I think people, Gilded Drake is better than I think people really give it credit for, and I think this is just better than Gilded Drake a lot of the time. So I think there's really a good reason to maybe play that instead. But I'm not entirely sure. I will say one thing that really stuck out to me with this set from other Horizon set, there was a stunning like lack of legends in this set. I noticed.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Like they outside of the Planeswalker cycle.
I think that was one of the things they criticized about the last one, was that it was more too commander focused. So I think this might be a reaction to that.
Yeah, that was one of the things I think I noticed the most, was there was just an interesting lack of legendary cards. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. But like, I do think that isn't great for the generic or the general health of the format overall.
Yeah. But
I also recognize that Commander is not the focus of this set, which is fine. Yeah. So every set doesn't need to be made for the format. That being said, last two Modern Horizon sets have been very influential in the formation of cEDH and its like direction. So I think, I think of at least two decks right off the top of my head that were very like formidable, that were Urza and Sisay, and those were legends from Modern Horizons, and there are others that have done that. And I would like to see more legends than this, but not as many legends as like every other. Like I think I would like it to be somewhere in between here and Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which was like every other card was a fucking legendary card.
Yeah, and I think this is once again a very intentional choice on the behalf of the committee, right? Like, or whoever. Yeah. I think that's fine. Realistically, I think it's just. But yes, I agree, because the Modern Horizons commanders tend to be ones that are pushed enough that cEDH players enjoy them, right? And like that's kind of nice.
And I gotta say, like, from what I have seen from the commander decks, is they're really not that impressive.
It's pretty mid. Yeah,
it's pretty mid. And so I like if we do a set review for the commander portion of it, it'll be because they dropped something on us last minute that is nuts. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Ian, if people want to hire you to teach them how to Magic good, how can people do that?
Yeah, hi everybody. Ian here. ComedIan MTG is my other YouTube channel. I do professional cEDH coaching as my main squeeze, my full-time career. So if you're interested in being coached by the player who has more wins than any other player with diverse strategies and decks, then feel free to come reach me out. I've basically touched every commander in the format at this point. So if you think you need someone who can help you out, do that. I can be found at comedianmtg@gmail.com. You can find me at ComedIanMTG on Twitter and Instagram, or comedian_MTG over on Discord. We have gameplay coaching. We have one-on-one coaching. We have a bunch of different stuff. All of it's really amazing. And come find me there.
Yeah. If you want to support the Mind Sculptors and what we're doing, of course, support Ian, but also you can support this channel also by heading over to patreon.com/the Mind Sculptors. You can also use our TCG player affiliate link down in the description. And any of that helps. Also, if you don't want to spend any money, you can just leave a like and comment. That helps us out as well. So with all that being said, this was fun. Thank you for joining us this week, and we will see you next time with the power rankings for the month of May.